Well, it's time to read another chapter. Yay. I like reading.
MLP FIM is property of Hasbro. This is a free fanfiction not to be sold or traded for any money, goods, or services. Warning: grim, dark, contains graphic writing. Please do not read if you do not like gory, violent stories concerning the MLP. Contains murder, slaughter, gore, and swearing, like the last one really matters. LOL.
fLuTtEr 3. Fluttershy had really enjoyed herself at the party. It had been so much fun to spend time with her friends and talk about all the good times, the adventures, and all the lessons of friendship they had learned together. But the party had to come to an end, with Applejack and Rainbow Dash totally smashed, having gotten themselves into a drinking contest. Good night, Twilight, Pinkie, Rarity. Fluttershy smiled and waved a wink. She then headed home. She was a little tipsy from the single glass of wine she had, thanks to Rarity pretty much forcing her to drink it. Fluttershy was such a lightweight. Fluttershy still made it home with no troubles, passing by a few late-night couples taking moonlight walks. She didn't bother them, and they didn't bother her. It had been such a wonderful evening that she didn't even notice strange sounds coming from her home, not till she opened the door and all her little animal friends dashed outside and into the night. Fluttershy was instantly worried. "Whisperwing? Are you there, Whisperwing?" She headed into the living room, looked around, looked in the kitchen. Still nothing, but she spotted a small hole ripped in the bathroom door. She could see something dark and red on the floor. She tried to open the door, but it was locked from the inside. Whisperwing's odd meow came from within the bathroom, and instantly Fluttershy feared the worst. She kicked the door, again and again, till the lock broke. She rushed in and saw the splattering of blood everywhere. She looked down and saw her little baby sitting on the floor, a bloody little bunny paw in his mouth. Fluttershy choked up for a moment, but a thought came to her mind. It's only nature. Some animals kill others for food, and Angel Bunny was a bunny, my pet, a friend, but nature had to happen. My little baby is part cat after all. Fluttershy then felt something drip behind her ear. She stepped back, her ear flicking a bit. She looked up and gasped. The fan! The screen was ripped open and there was an awful lot of blood dripping from it. Had Angel tried to sneak out of the house through the bathroom fan? Had he somehow accidentally started it? There was no way that her little baby could have done something like that. She knelt down and nuzzled her baby. "Whisperwing, are you okay?" She glanced at the hole in the door. Whisperwing's claws could not have done that. It had to have been Angel. He did have sharp claws after all. But why? Was he playing a game with Whisperwing? A game that went bad for him? Fluttershy hugged her baby and cried, "Angel, he was always there for me. I'll miss him." She cried for what felt like hours, Whisperwing nuzzling her and trying to comfort her. Finally, after she had cried out all her tears, Fluttershy knew she had to clean up. She had to tend to Angel's body. Obviously, Whisperwing had tasted the blood and even eaten some of the rabbit. No matter how smart and playful he was, Fluttershy knew he was still part cat, and cats did eat meat. It wasn't like her little baby had killed Angel. He didn't know better. He was innocent. Fluttershy kept hearing her voice in her head telling her this. It was her voice. There was no reason not to believe it. ... Angel's death was a sad memory for Fluttershy. She had buried him alongside 3 other pets she had buried since coming to Ponyville. A small cemetery behind her cottage was where she laid him to rest. Still, Fluttershy knew that death was part of life. She could let grief consume her or move on with her life. She chose to move on. Fluttershy had noticed that Whisperwing had taken to stalking smaller creatures. She knew it was natural for him, and that he needed to hunt. But he was a danger to the animals she cared for. She had no idea what to do. Sure, he only seemed to hunt mice and the likes, and it hurt a little each time she knew he had caught and eaten one, but she loved her little baby. She wasn't going to force him to eat pastries, fruits, and vegetables, merely because cats just didn't eat that stuff. She just accepted it. ... Her friends had heard that Angel had died a good week after it had happened. They all came to visit her, while Whisperwing hid up in the bedroom. With Twilight back from Canterlot, all her friends came to pay their respects. Thank you. Fluttershy sniffled a little, touched that her friends had come to console her. You are all the best friends I could have ever wished for. I'm happy to hear you say that. So, what happened to the little angel? Fluttershy knew this question was going to come up. She had already thought up a story. They would never believe how he actually died up in the bathroom fan. I always warned him to chew more slowly, but she choked it up a little. He choked on a carrot. She fell against Applejack and cried. Poor angel. Dash looked down at the tiny little headstone. She had known all of Fluttershy's little pets. Fluttershy had been so sad to have lost each and every one, but always pulled through, saying that death was still a part of life. Every living thing experienced it eventually. Obviously, they had not taken the immortal princess into account. Twilight stood next to Dash. Dash? Yeah? Will Fluttershy be okay? Twilight looked at Fluttershy with concern. Yeah, she'll be alright. I think this week she stayed all by herself. Gave her a lot of time to think and remember all the good times and to come to terms. I just wish we had known. We all could have been there for her sooner. Dash looked away from the grave. Pinkie had purposely straightened her mane and tail for this. She was not depressed, but she felt really bad for Fluttershy. She too had known all her pets, and they had all been great friends to the introverted Pegasus. But Angel had been her best friend and had helped her come out of her shell more than any of her other pets. Rarity stepped up beside Pinkie Pie. Are you alright? She glanced at Pinkie's hair, quite worried. I just feel sad for Fluttershy. She batted lightly at her mane, a few strands looking like they were trying to curl on their own. Rarity nudged Pinkie Pie. Let's all see what you can do to help cheer Fluttershy up. Pinkie Pie nodded it and went to join the others. ... Whispering was growing quite quickly, but was still lacking the claws and sharp teeth needed for hunting. The small animals were no longer coming around Fluttershy's cottage like they had before. Fluttershy knew that some ponies might get suspicious at this. She was just glad that her little baby had not tried to go after the chickens. They had sharp claws and beaks, but he was growing a little too fast. She knew keeping him a secret would start becoming harder and harder. Eventually, whispering would be discovered. Fluttershy did not like the choice she had to make. She took her son and headed into the Everfree Forest. She knew where there was a cave that had no inhabitants, so it should be safe for him. She made sure the place was clean and safe before bringing Whisperwing in. Honey, this is going to be your new home. Oh, is that okay? Whisperwing looked around, then explored a bit, sniffing here and there, finding a large underground stream. He then continued exploring until he found a large ledge up overhead, perfect to see the cave entrance, but also remained hidden from view. He climbed a series of natural stairs. He let out a cute meow and looked down at his mother. Fluttershy felt this would be the perfect place for him now. She just hoped that he would be able to find food. She was not abandoning him, just giving him a new place to live. She had every intention to protect and care for him. I'll be back later, okay? Whispering nodded and watched as Fluttershy left. His eyes glowed red as a cruel grin crossed his lips. ... Fluttershy walked slowly back toward the edge of the forest, unaware that her eyes were flickering red. She suddenly stopped, her ears swerving around. She could hear something nearby. A small rabbit. Whisperwing would probably love some rabbit again, she thought, then slowly, silently stalked the rabbit. She didn't even realize what she was doing till she pounced and landed on the rabbit, pinning it down. The rabbit struggled to escape, and Fluttershy was about to let it go. But the thought of her growing baby going hungry was too much. She bit down on the back of the rabbit's neck, hard. There was a small crunch, a few spasms from the rabbit, and it fell limp. Fluttershy stood up, the rabbit dangling from her teeth, and her mouth dripping blood. She turned and headed back to the cave. Once back, she entered and set the food down. Whispering, I brought you something to eat. A small creature floated down from the upper ledge and crashed cutely, stumbling from the landing. He approached his mother and looked at the rabbit. Eat up, sweetie. Mom will always take care of you. Whispering meowed happily and tackled the bunny, but his tiny teeth could not tear through the fur and hide, and his claws just didn't seem to be able to tear through it. Fluttershy frowned. Her baby couldn't eat the rabbit like this. She lowered her head and opened her mouth. She then bit into the rabbit, roughly tearing a chunk free. She placed it on the stone floor before Whispering. As she watched her baby start eating the meat, she became aware of the coppery and salty taste in her mouth. There was blood in her mouth. She was no stranger to the taste, often licking cuts and other small wounds on animals to help clean them. She never really thought that much about the fact that it was blood. She licked her bloody lips, taking in a little more blood, running her tongue over them and finding the taste was not all that bad. She watched Whisperwing finish off the small piece she had bitten off, then repeated it again and again. She didn't chew or eat any of the meat, but she did lick up the blood from her lips, the floor, and from her baby when he was done eating. All that remained of the bunny was pieces of fur and messy bones. fLuTtEr took the remains and transported them to a ravine nearby for disposal. She then returned to the cave and washed up in the stream. After she was clean, she nuzzled her baby. "Mama will be back tomorrow." She smiled and trotted back to her cottage. Weeks passed, and fLuTtEr had returned to her veterinary duties. She was visited by her friends on occasion, and they didn't see or sense that anything was out of the ordinary. When fLuTtEr was alone and done tending to the animals, she would vanish into the forest. Her baby needed food, after all. Rabbits were easy enough for her to catch and kill, but her baby was still growing. After a few weeks, a single rabbit was not enough for him, so she had to bring 2, sometimes 3. This started to be a problem in itself. fLuTtEr started noticing a decline in the number of wild rabbits in the area, and started delving deeper and deeper into the forest. The first time she spotted a deer, she hunted it. It had sensed her and bolted, and she had given chase. fLuTtEr was pushing herself to catch this deer, every muscle in her body screaming as she pushed herself. She didn't care. The chase. It was exhilarating. She had never felt this way before. The deer was fast and agile, but fLuTtEr had advantages over her wild prey. fLuTtEr was smart. She knew she could fly if she wanted to, but somehow felt it would ruin the rush she was feeling. Dodging between trees and through bushes, over and under fallen logs, the terrified deer tried to escape, but he could hear the Pegasus pony close behind him. His lungs burned, his heart pounded so loudly it was almost deafening. No matter what he did, he could not shake her. To make matters worse, the Pegasus would somehow get in front of him, lashing with a quick kick to his shoulders. This happened again and again. He was in some pain, and was starting to slow down. "Oh, don't give up yet," fLuTtEr almost purred, the adrenaline pumping through his system like it had never pumped before. The deer stared into those green eyes that flickered with red light, those eyes that reminded him of a predator, and he would try to escape again and again. Finally, his legs failed him, and the deer collapsed. fLuTtEr stalked closer, seeing the poor creature gasping for breath, staring at her with wide eyes filled with fear. Then she lunged, biting onto his throat, crushing down onto his windpipe. The deer tried to kick fLuTtEr off, but they were too worn out to be effective. As life slowly left his body, his eyes rolled back into his head. With a final spasm, the deer died. fLuTtEr had felt the life slowly draining from the deer. It made her feel alive, like she had never been before. Killing rabbits had not made her feel like this before. fLuTtEr released the crushed throat, blood dripping from her mouth. She licked the sweet, coppery blood from her lips and smiled. "Don't worry, little dear. Your death will ensure my lovely Whisperwing will live and grow stronger." She then bit down onto the throat and flew back to the cave with her kill. ... fLuTtEr had torn the deer to pieces so her baby could feed off it for at least a week. The blood she had drank filled her, making her feel warm and happy in ways that grass and flowers could never hope to match. She washed up before kissing her baby. "I'll be back later, Blackthorn." She then flew from the cave, heading back toward Ponyville. ... Rainbow Dash sat on the deck of the library, a small stack of books next to her. She had never really liked reading before, but ever since she had read the book on bees, she had taken interest in reading about flying creatures. Falcons were her favorite bird to read about. Fast, agile, and able to fly so high and free. She grinned as she flipped to read the next page, only to have the warm sunlight blocked out. Dash looked up and brightened into a pair of cute green eyes. They were directed at the book, a look of curiosity in them. "Hey, fLuTtEr," Dash blinked. "What brings you to Ponyville today?" fLuTtEr smiled, her gentle smile. "I wanted to find a book on animals." "Of course." Dash rolled her eyes and chuckled. "Why didn't you just go inside?" "I saw you here reading." She eyes Dash quizzically. I never knew you liked to read. Well, never did before, but then I started reading about bees, then other flying bugs. Before I realized it, I was reading about birds. She tapped the small stack of books with a hoof. That's how I started reading books about falcons and other raptors. These birds really are serious about their speed. I see. I want to know how to fly like they do. You betcha. I'm the best young Pegasus flyer, but everything I've read in these books tells me that falcons are even better flyers than me. I want to learn how to fly like they do. Fluttershy tilted her head a little. Really? It's easy. She smiled at Dash's confused look. You know how to fly like a falcon? How could you know that? You're afraid of heights. Fluttershy shook her head. Not anymore. She glanced her eyes up, then back at Dash. Want me to show you? Dash laughed. Yeah, the day you can fly like a falcon, I'll eat my hat. You don't have a hat. Oh, yeah. Guess trying to use AJ's line won't work. So, you'll eat something Twilight cooks? I'm adventurous, not suicidal. Dash deadpanned, then broke out laughing. Tell you what, why don't you just show me? Fluttershy smiled. How about another time? I really should get the book I need and get it back home. Oh, Dash looked a little disappointed. Well, if you have to. Fluttershy nuzzled Dash, then hopped off the balcony. Dash turned back to her book, then paused. That was odd. He looked to where Fluttershy had been. Something seemed a little different about her. She seemed less shy. Dash just grinned and got back to reading. ... Twilight was at it again. She was examining the remains of the stinger that had been pulled from Fluttershy's side weeks ago. There was no explanation as to how or why it was made out of wood fibers. It was basically made out of paper, only not flat. Spike! Twilight called down the stairs. You bellow, Twi? Spike climbed the stairs to the second library floor. I need you to send a letter to Canterlot. None of these books I have here are of any use. You're still trying to figure that out? Didn't you send a report to the princess asking about it? She has no clue. She said that she had never heard of anything like it before. Twilight scowled slightly. Spike retrieved a scroll and quill, dipped it into a vial of ink. What books do you think you'll be needing? Twilight pointed to a letter she had already written. Did that part already. I just need you to send it. Twilight then stretched, her back popping and snapping. Ugh, I need a break. Hello? Twilight? A soft voice called from below the loft. Fluttershy? We haven't seen you in town for a few weeks. Twilight trotted down to the main floor. Is something the matter? Oh, no trouble. I was just wondering if you had any books on animals of the Everfree Forest. Twilight's horn glowed as she spoke. Of course I do. I have a few of them. Dangerous animals of the Everfree Forest, mysterious animals of the Everfree Forest, known monsters of the Everfree Forest. No, you don't want that one. Native animals of the Everfree Forest. Thank you, Twilight. That one will be perfect. Twilight smiled and placed the book into a basket. Any time, Fluttershy. You look like you're doing well. Why wouldn't I? Oh, well, I do miss Angel a lot, but I've had other animal friends before him. Twilight remembered seeing the 3 other grave markers. Yeah, Rainbow Dash told me all about them. Angel really was your favorite one, though. I've never had a pet myself. The owl that helped her at night was her nighttime assistant, not her pet. Thank goodness for that, Spike chuckled. He was sitting on the edge of the loft, watching his mentor and the kindest and gentlest pony he had ever known. He wished Rarity would come over more often. Oh, yeah, Rarity asked me about you a few times. Told me that if I saw you to send you over to her, see her. Thank you, Spike. Fluttershy smiled and picked up the basket. She bowed her head in thanks to Twilight, then left. Rarity was having a creative deadlock. She needed inspiration! Inspiration was being quite evasive today, much to the unicorn's dismay. Or rather, it had been till it walked through the front door. Fluttershy? Oh, darling, how I've missed you! Rarity hugged her dear friend. I am so glad you arrived when you did. You were my little muse. You knew that, right? Well, no, but thank you, Fluttershy said after setting the basket down. What are you working on? I don't know yet. Princess Luna sent me a request. She wants me to make something special for her sister's upcoming birthday. That's also the Summer Sun celebration, isn't it? Fluttershy asked. Yes, the one and the same. Our precious Princess Luna wants something pretty, elegant, and I just don't know what to make her. Rarity looked around her room. A dress, a cloak, a scarf. I just don't know. Fluttershy tilted her head, a cute innocent look on her face. I've heard that socks are quite popular. Socks? Fluttershy raised a disapproving eye. You expect me to make socks for Princess Celestia? I have a pair of fluffy and warm socks. They're so cute. I made them myself. Rarity just stared at Fluttershy. Socks! Warm, fluffy, with the princess cutie mark on them. Her eyes grew wide and sparkled. You indeed are my wonderful little muse. She hugged Fluttershy. How can I ever thank you? You already did. Fluttershy hugged Rarity back. She buried her muzzle in Rarity's mane and breathed deeply. The smell of lavender filled her nostrils. New shampoo? You noticed. The spa has a selection of new shampoo and conditioners. Rarity's eyes lit up. When was the last time we went to the spa together? That was before winter wrap-up. I think so. Fluttershy then nodded. Yes, it was. How about we go now? I haven't gone in such a long time. But I have to make Luna's gift for... Fluttershy pushed her basket to the side and rested a wing over Rarity's withers. Spa. Now. I need to go. Fluttershy was a little taken back by Fluttershy's boldness, but could only smile with glee. Of course. It has been a week since I last went. Fluttershy simply smiled. She felt more alive now than she had ever felt before. To be continued. Can someone say filler? Yeah, this was basically just focusing on how Fluttershy's slowly going crazy. It's most of it seems like filler, because a few of the parts actually explain something that the audience will actually care about are very few. And it's covered in, oh, Rainbow, you're reading a book on falcons, or Twilight needs to write a letter, or Rarity needs to go to the spa. But I love how they took the filler parts that people would normally not really care about and put Fluttershy's new developing personality into it to make it relevant. So that was really crafty right there. So yeah. Now, I would give this 8 out of 10. And because, you know, it's just like the first one, it was very, and there was a lot of skipping, a lot more skipping in this one. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, it's okay to, like, skip parts in your chapters, but, like, I really hate, there's just a lot of chapters when people start to get annoyed by the constant having to skip time and time and time and time and time and time. So you can understand why. But other than that, it was a really good story. I'll just give it 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. It was just really crafty, really crafty. Good job. And with that, I am done for now, and I should stop talking soon and get to work. So if you guys enjoy, yay, you enjoyed something that I did. Next chapter will be posted tomorrow, hopefully, and that is all for today. Ciao!